Have you ever found yourself, needing everything to be absolutely perfect before you even start something? It's a feeling a lot of us recognize, I think.
It is very common.
So today we're diving into perfectionism. We often hear it praised, like it's some kind of virtue, right? Being detail-oriented, striving for excellence.
That's the conventional wisdom, certainly.
But what if that constant chase for flawlessness isn't actually helping? What if your drive to get it just right is maybe the very thing holding you back, stopping you from moving forward?
That's the core question we're exploring. Is it a driver or is it actually a brake?
Exactly. Our mission here is to dig into this idea, look at what it really means based on the material we've been looking at.
And it's a fascinating area because, well, what perfectionism looks like on the surface can be quite different from what's actually going on underneath.
Right. It often wears this mask, doesn't it? It looks like being super careful, wanting high standards. You tell yourself you're just being thorough.
Refining, polishing, always needing a bit more time to get it right.
But the analysis we've reviewed suggests something else entirely, that maybe perfectionism is actually a kind of procrastination, a really fancy version of it.
That's a key concept that comes through. It's avoidance. Dressed up as diligence, you get stuck tweaking, waiting, maybe even avoiding starting, all because you're aiming for better.
Which never quite arrives. It's like chasing the horizon. It looks reachable, but you never actually get there.
Precisely. And the cost is significant. That work, it might never see the light of day. Those ideas just stay ideas. Time just slips away.
There's a quote that really hit home for me. Perfectionism doesn't protect you from failure. It guarantees it through inaction.
That sums it up powerfully. It's the inaction that becomes the real failure, not the imperfect attempt.
So if it's not just about wanting things to be good quality, what else is driving it? The material suggests deeper roots, more than just a personality quirk.
Fear seems to be a major factor. Fear of being judged, obviously. Fear of, well, not being good enough. That's pretty common.
We hear about those a lot.
But interestingly, the material also points to something less obvious. A fear of success.
Fear of success, that sounds backwards. How does that work?
Well, think about it. Success brings new pressures, doesn't it? Expectations rise. You have to maintain it. Maybe your life changes in ways you're not prepared for. That anxiety can actually make people unconsciously sabotage themselves by never finishing, by staying in that almost ready phase.
So you retreat into endless preparation because actually succeeding feels scary.
It can, for some. And then there's the whole cultural layer on top of this.
You mean how society kind of pushes us towards this?
Absolutely. Think about hustle culture, the way we only ever seem to celebrate the polished end result, never the messy process.
And social media, that's a huge one. Everything looks so perfect, so curated. You scroll through feeds and it feels like everyone else has it all figured out.
It creates this immense pressure, this feeling that you need to present a flawless front too. Imperfection feels like exposure.
Yeah, vulnerability.
And it's not just social media. Even our education systems sometimes reward only the right answer. Less room for trial and error, for learning through mistakes.
So all these things kind of teach us to equate our value with being flawless.
It certainly contributes. It creates this environment where making mistakes feels incredibly high stakes.
Which is funny because real growth, real learning, it's messy, isn't it? It's full of mistakes and wrong turns.
Inherently messy. That's the truth of it. So this pursuit of perfection can almost be seen as a strategy to avoid that discomfort, that messiness of actually learning and growing.
Trying to stay in control, even if it's an illusion.
Exactly. Which brings us back to the procrastination link. The sources we looked at draw a clear line from perfectionism to anxiety-driven delay. It's basic behavioral psychology, really.
How so? What's the mechanism?
The brain is wired to avoid pain, right? Potential pain. And for someone prone to perfectionism, putting something out there that might be flawed feels risky. It could lead to criticism, embarrassment, the pain of not meeting your own standards.
So delaying the action feels safer.
In the short term, yes. Delaying avoids that potential pain right now. The brain thinks, if I just wait until it's perfect, I avoid all that negative stuff.
But as we said, perfect never comes, so you just stay stuck. I remember seeing that Jodi Picoult quote, "You can't edit a blank page."
That's it. You need something to work with, even if it's rough. You have to start.
It really highlights the paralysis. And it's interesting that high achievers can actually be the worst procrastinators sometimes.
It makes sense, though. The higher your own standards, the greater the perceived gap between your current state and that perfect ideal, and the more daunting it feels to even start, let alone finish. The fear of falling short is immense.
The material mentioned a few related ideas too, just briefly. Imposter syndrome came up.
Ah, yes, that feeling of being a fraud, that you don't deserve your accomplishments. It often goes hand in hand with perfectionism. You feel inadequate, so you strive for impossible perfection to try and compensate or prove you belong.
And what about technology? AI, productivity tools. You'd think they'd help, but maybe they add pressure.
That's a really interesting point raised. These tools promise efficiency, but they can also create an expectation of constant flawless output. Like, with all this tech, there's no excuse for mistakes anymore. Which isn't true, of course.
And childhood stuff too, like parents asking, why wasn't it a 10 out of 10?
Early conditioning plays a huge role. Those messages, intended or not, can shape our relationship with achievement and failure for life. You can instill that belief that anything less than perfect is not good enough.
It all paints a picture of perfectionism as this attempt to control things, maybe, to prevent chaos or criticism by creating this flawless shield.
An illusion of control, absolutely. And maybe the way out involves surrender, not giving up, but surrendering the need for that impossible perfection, surrendering to the process itself.
Okay, so if we recognize this pattern in ourselves, how do we shift? It's not about throwing standards out the window, right?
Not at all. High standards are good. They should inspire you, push you. The problem is when they become paralyzing instead of motivating.
So, practical steps. What did the material suggest?
One idea is to think more like a software developer. Release version 1.0, get it out there. Then iterate, improve based on feedback or your own later insights. Don't wait for the final perfect version that never comes.
I like that, version 1.0. What else?
There's the 90% rule. When something feels, say, 90% done, maybe it's time to let it go. That last 10% often involves diminishing returns and can trap you indefinitely.
Just getting caught in tiny details that don't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And another strategy, perhaps a harder one, is practicing public imperfection.
Meaning?
Sharing work when it's still rough. Early drafts, sketches, prototypes. It helps normalize the process, reduces the fear of judgment, and shows that progress isn't always neat and tidy.
That takes courage. But I can see how it would dismantle the fear over time and redefining failure.
Crucial. Seeing failure not as an endpoint or a reflection of your worth, but simply as feedback, data, information you can use to learn and adjust. It's a necessary part of growth, not something to be avoided at all costs.
Done is better than perfect. That quote again, because perfect just doesn't show up, does it? But done builds momentum.
It really does. Action creates more action. So the core message really is seeing perfectionism for what it often is, a very sophisticated, often quite appealing form of procrastination.
Procrastination in a Gucci jacket, as the analogy went.
Ah, yes, exactly. It looks good, feels like you're aiming high, but ultimately it stops you from actually doing the thing.
All that time spent perfecting is time not spent engaging, launching, sharing.
And the antidote, the way through it, is just action, messy action maybe, imperfect action, human action. That's where the real stuff happens.
That's how you build confidence too, isn't it? By actually doing things, even if they aren't perfect, and surviving the outcome. You learn you can handle it.
Precisely. You build resilience, you learn, you actually transform things, including yourself.
Okay, so wrapping this up. The big takeaway seems to be that chasing this mirage of perfect can seriously stall us, and it's often driven by fear, not just high standards.
The powerful insight when you really let it sink in.
It really makes you think. Is your pursuit of perfection genuinely serving you, or is it subtly keeping you stuck? And maybe the most important question to leave with is, what's one messy, imperfect action you could take today instead of waiting for everything to be just right?
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Deep Thoughts Podcast. I hope you found insights and inspiration to take with you on your journey of self-growth. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on new releases and exclusive content. See you next time, where we'll continue to help you grow and explore your full potential.